key, and he reckoned that this was the key to one of the arsenals, and he was going to get into this arsenal when Mountbatten arrived, and he was going to fight the Japanese, and he invited us all to join him. But we had to deal with him, and he was subsequently there, and then we knew that we had to suspect we were getting some. We didn't have a radio. We used to wait. There was one tree. The next crowd were about 5 miles away, and they'd always get a runner up somehow between the day to find out what the news was. And then one day we were told there was have a half holiday. The men came home early, and that was a bit strange. And then we'd heard suggestions that something had happened. There'd been a big bomb dropped. That's all we knew. We knew before they did it. Well, they probably didn't. I don't think the troops had been told until the second one dropped. And then we were pretty confident. And then when we were told there was no work tomorrow, it was obvious that the whole thing was over. Everybody was happy, and the next day an American plane, twin-engine thing, came down and looking for, obviously, to see what was down there, and they had the doors open waving, but they came over to a couple of 100 feet and beat the little camp up. And the troops said, oh, they're the bloody nips again, and they packed it up. I'd never seen the morale go. They just caught another one. They just didn't look and wait and see. They thought they were going to be shot up or something. But I've never seen just this small body of men. They just broke their hearts. And however, they soon got over it. But that was, yes. Then they moved us to a little camp down at the the crossing, the thing across from the Johor Bahru to the mainland, from the island to the mainland.
Near the causeway?
Causeway, the famous causeway. And there was a British camp there, and these were fellows, I don't know what they were, but I've never seen anything like it. It was, all I could see was what looked like a hut, an army hut, completely covered in green growth of some kind. And these were vegetables and cucumbers growing all over it, and all you could see was about 6 openings in through the cucumbers, and they were living in there. They were absolutely dead, virtually. God, I don't know, extraordinary. But we had to stay there a few days before eventually we went back to Changi.
Yes.
But,
and how long were you there before you returned to Australia?
I got back before Christmas, so I was back I was lucky. Again, Bruce Hunt. He came running to me one day, soon after we'd heard that there'd been a hospital ship arrived. And he was terribly excited about this, and then later in the day I saw him. He said, come on, you've got to be ready tomorrow. I said, what for? He said, you're coming back home. I said, yeah, I can't, don't be silly, I haven't heard anything about that. He said, well, I'm off. And he said, you're going too. And I said, what, how's that? He said, there's a mate of mine, mate of somebody or other's on this ship. And he said, I can get people on and you're on. And he went down to Glen White and he said, Lloyd Cahill's coming home with me. And Glen said, oh, okay, okay. So that's how I got onto the ship, and I was one of the first ones back. But there's no, and he did. And strangely enough, this friend of Bruce's was Lloyd, General Lloyd or somebody or other. And
Brigadier Lloyd.
Brigadier Lloyd, yes. It was Brigadier Lloyd, that's right. He was the officer in charge of the ship, and our mate of Bruce's, and then this Lloyd got home.
Good West Australian.
Yeah, so there it is. So that was the finish of it. It was an extraordinary thing.
Lloyd, if you were to encapsulate what you thought was the ingredients for someone to survive,
I think the first thing was you had to have a good mate, a couple of good mates, and if you did that, I think that was a great thing. The rest of it, I found it very difficult. Sometimes you'd find the fittest men, you'd think one particular friend of mine, who was the captain of the Bondi Surf Club, big, healthy, excellent athlete. He died from scabies, and he just scratched himself to death. And other fellows, you'd think, little wispy coves would they'd battle it through no matter what happened, they'd be up again. Some of those chaps that recovered from cholera and then get malaria afterwards, you know, and it'd come back. They're quite extraordinary. They, you know, when they got back to Australia, they settled down. They seemed to be pretty good. They did very well. Not many of them left now, but
no.
they're an extraordinary lot, good lot, tough, the salt of the earth, really.
Mm.
They were just, and the difference, you know, in the mortality between the Brits and the Australians was extraordinary. The Australians could come up and, you know, you'd march at night and stop at midnight, and the monsoon was coming, it was down, pouring with rain. And there's one fellow there, you'd call out, call for the ringer. This was a fellow, Ringer Edwards. I always remember the ringer. He, I had been given, when we left to go on this great F-Force, what they had in the Q store, there was an Indian ship had come in and left some supplies there, and the only thing I got out of it was a pork pie hat. So I went off to build a railway with a pork pie hat. And this, I'd go there in the middle of the night, fellas were falling over and breaking their wrists and breaking their arms. And so you'd have to, if you get a fire going in the monsoon, you could do it. It's something for them, chop up a bit of bamboo and set them. So they'd call for the ringer, you'd hear them, ringer, come here, Ringer Edwards, and the ringer would come along. He said, give me your hat, Skip, and I'd give him the pork pie hat. I don't know what he'd do. He'd get down with some little leaves on the ground, and within 5 minutes he'd have a fire going, a burning fire. You could get it. Now he was written up. I often talk about the ringer, but he's still every now and then the books appear. That book were, there were several books written. One of them was a war book talking about the ringer. And he's a well-known character, Ringer Edwards.
Does the
He's one of the toughest men I've ever known.
That's saying something.
Yes.
Does the name Roy Cornford mean anything to you? Was he his second 19th man?
No, not Cornford.
Mm.
No.
Lives in Wollongong now.
No, I didn't know him. I can't recall him.
Well, I think we've covered most things, Lloyd. Can I say how much I appreciate?
Oh, well, I don't know. Well, I hope it is of help too. But
oh, absolutely.
There's a few of the funny sides and some of the more serious, but I always think, you know, that Changi film they made was a disgrace. Lisa, who's in today, she loves golf. She's not a bad golfer. And she said, Dad, have you seen these signs to Eleonora? That's the club we belong to down here on the coast. Changi. And I said, yes, I've been watching it. She said, look, they're making that film. I said, oh, I've seen a bit on the air about that. She said, well, they're making a film on Changi, the ABC, and if you'd like to see it, one of the girls that I play's husband's mixed up in it. She said, I said, oh, that'd be great, yes, let's do that. So she said, oh, well, came back and said, yes, one next Monday afternoon we can go down. So we went down towards the, I don't know if you know that from here to the coast, there's an area down there, a nice area, and it's quite undeveloped. So I found in the, going down this road, past these Changi signs, there was an opening in the scrub, and you go in there, and we went in through this opening, and there was a big flat business down in the scrub where they had all the gear that goes with making a film, eating tents and God knows what not. And a fellow came up and he said, you know, what are you doing here? And we said, oh, well, my daughter said, well, I've got permission here.